are back. We are back, everyone, with two exciting guests with none other than my lovely co-host, Rob. And I'm going to actually let you go see this excitement that we have in store for you. Passing over to you, Rob.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lauren. Yes, I'm excited. So I've got someone who's actually become a friend, Giles Adams, CEO of VQ Communications.
Yeah, good to see you.
And Helen Briggs with collaboration for European, EMEA. See how the brain just stops down when it comes to
Europe,
titles?
Middle East, and Africa.
There you go. She knows where she's from and what she represents. That's perfect. Well, so just before we get into the questions, I wonder, first, could you explain what you're responsible for, Helen, and then we'll come to you, and I'm just give us kind of the quick on who VQ is and how long you've been part of Cisco, because you guys are a very close part. But let's see what you have to say about that, Helen. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, thank you. So I actually run the EMEA business for our collaboration architecture. Collaboration, as you've heard by the keynotes, is really key in across both customer experience and employee experience. So we're responsible for delivering that into all of our customers and working really closely with our partners as well.
Absolutely. Very good. Giles, I'm curious, so VQ is a video conferencing provider. Yes?
Not quite. We've been developing software to enable people to build services for coming up 20 years. And I'm in a very fortunate position currently being the CEO. We've got a great talent pool of engineers that are all based in the UK. And my job is to provide some guidance and get out the way and let them do their clever things.
Well, specifically, though, you guys are building your solutions. You're using Cisco gear 100% across the board, but you're doing it in such a way that is not something Cisco does as much of historically, and so you've become a very crucial part of the relationship for many customers who have mission-critical networks. Can you explain, if I'm setting you up correctly, can you explain what I mean by that?
So the marketplace that we address has been always around people delivering mission-critical services, and that typically requires really stringent, high-quality software for people to build a conferencing service which may be in a government agency where people are looking to secure their nation's secrets, but increasingly we're seeing that across enterprise customers as well. So in the relationship with Cisco, which has been direct now for 4 or 5 years, we've done 500 or so projects together during that time, we jointly interact with key Cisco infrastructure and add something to that environment.
Okay, and so this would be everything, and this is key communications infrastructure specifically. And so I'm curious from the market perspective, Helen, what you're seeing, especially in EMEA or anywhere you're comfortable speaking to. But obviously Cisco has been moving to cloud. Everything goes to cloud, and for good reason. Not just because some things become easier, but it becomes a better way to do scale as we get better and better at this. And so obviously we don't see that stopping, but we do have many customers that are concerned. They've always been concerned about where's my data located, and that continues to bubble to the surface. But I think it's given new energy to doing more stuff on premises, and we're not always engineered for that. But I'm curious, where do you see the market going on cloud versus prem versus hybrid situations?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So Cisco is cloud first. It's not cloud only, and that is to really cater to all of our customers globally. So whether you're in a certain segmentation that's very highly, fundamentally flawed by regulations or mandates, or whether you are able to actually have some applications that can actually be offshored, so outsourced and cloud, or whether you actually have them inside, we actually cater for all. Now, just to actually be really clear, an on-prem scenario is really about where that infrastructure lives. So it's where it lives and also where it's maintained. And there's some real positives with that. So it sits in a customer's data center, and the customer themselves, they maintain, they secure, they manage, and they actually deliver software updates, which means that they're in control. But it also means it's quite heavy on resource and IT. Now you flip that over, and from a cloud perspective, then Cisco takes all of that complexity away via our WebEx offering with video conferencing. And with that, it basically means that we can actually offer at scale agile innovations such as AI, such as collaboration tools. But as Giles did mention, we have to also interact with the customer's scenario and the customer's environment. So they may have certain back-end applications or tools that we have to interact with from a cloud offering, and that's where VQ comes in, of really understanding that customer's infrastructure and being able to be flexible. Some applications will be cloud, some applications might be on-prem, and it makes it a very complex nature for an in-house IT department. So that's why Cisco works with VQ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the VQ certainly works with cloud just fine, but you've developed tools, continue to develop, because one of the challenges when you start trying to remain distinct or have ability to draw the line on where the cloud begins and ends in your operation, wherever the customer wants it, you also potentially, maybe lose some of the good things about cloud and some of the services it delivers. But you guys have consistently rolled out technologies, as I understand it, to bridge that gap so that customers can have the best of both worlds. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think trying to narrow the gap, because as Helen rightly points out, there is massively more compute available in a cloud environment than there is in an on-premise environment, which may be air-gapped and totally locked down. But what we've always been trying to do is to make sure that there isn't a massive differences in the services that people can experience. So what we don't want is somebody perhaps who works in a government agency going into a secure environment, having a conferencing experience, and then perhaps going home and then using another experience and going, well, they are completely different.
Yeah.
You don't have two different types of phone experience, you have a phone experience.
Right.
But so being able to add back functionality that people just expect to use the term table stakes is what we've been trying to do and continue to do. And of course, one of those things is, in a very simplistic view, is adding back things like some of the AI capabilities, like meeting transcription, translation, all those types of things. And that's something that we're working on quite heavily at the moment.
Which is funny, because we always think, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense. But for you, in the actual implementation of that, your engineers are figuring out, well, that means localized models.
Absolutely.
And so there's a shift and an expectation and probably a lot of pre-work that goes into that. Because I think many customers may make the mistake of thinking, if I want to take more of this under my control, why can't I just do it myself? You're like, well, you're welcome to try. Here's my number. When you're ready to get serious.
It's actually quite complicated delivering services in an air-gapped environment. All of those reliances that people are familiar with in a typical IT deployment, where you access, for example, licensing permissions through a cloud-based service, just don't exist in an air-gapped environment. So there's quite a lot of complexity, and that's why it's quite a niche environment in terms of the special engineers that work in this space.
Yeah.
And it's why we've got this great relationship with Cisco, because we've been partnered together for a long time. Some of the customers, which obviously neither of us can share in an open environment, are obviously fairly paranoid about the services.
I want to ask the paranoid questions, but I get it. Yeah.
But it's really important. So we leverage the best infrastructure, and Cisco and VQ dominate this space. There is nobody else in this marketplace. There are other vendors that will talk the talk, but when it comes to getting into this type of environment, delivering high volume services for customers, right the way up to, if you could call it the sort of pyramid of paranoia, if you go further and further up a particular environment, it has to be resilient, it has to just work all the time and every time.
Well, I know you guys have taught us a lot about how this can work over the years, because this is not a new relationship. I wonder, I'll start with you, but I want you to piggyback off this from your perspective. But when did the Cisco relationship start, and are there some key moments in terms of how, because I feel like a lot of the Cisco engineers, from my experience, look at VQ engineers as just another department almost, because you're working towards the same goals, definitely separate companies, but we've been working tightly together for a while.
Yeah, so we've had a direct commercial relationship with Cisco for 4.5 years. There's a program called Solutions Plus, and this is where Cisco's recognized, and it's not just VQ, that there are gaps in the Cisco portfolio which is not relevant for them to invest in, because either it's too small or it's too niche in terms of the special skills that are required. So Cisco has this program called Solutions Plus. As I say, we've done some 500 plus projects together, and the pipeline is growing, not just in America, it's a real global program. So it works really, really well. But it's really where, over time, the recognized skill set that we have and the software that we have is solving real-world customer problems. And that's the key thing, making sure that we continue to deliver to that.
Yeah, Helen, I think a lot of times these guys are very well engaged with our defense customers, and anybody that's dealing with sensitive data on a regular basis, and they probably know each other on a first name basis. What is your impression of those relationships and how important it is to Cisco?
So dynamic changes are always happening in the market, and where we are today, we're seeing that. And actually with the on-premise that we've been speaking about, that's actually growing in certain markets and certain verticals.
Yeah.
And Giles and I was talking last week, because I went to see a customer in Northern Europe, and it was around the county courts. And some of the stats that they're actually trying to strive through at the moment is that 1 in every 3 court appearances now is on video conferencing. Before the pandemic, it was quite low. The pandemic brought more so, and people now see it way more flexible as part of their daytime. But with that becomes 1 in every 5 sessions need an interpreter as well. So due to the sensitivity of that call, 155,000 events are actually recorded and stored on an annual basis. So it's huge in types of that dynamic. And with them, they have to keep that very, very safe. They have to keep that away from even some of their geo partners in country, whether that's the police forces or other areas that they actually that they have to contact. But then they will have certain parts of those particular interactions that can be shared. So that's when VQ can come in and really start to prioritize what the data sensitivity is and the priorities are, and how we can actually start to move that around to make that ecosystem work. And we were just talking about that last week. So it's integral that this partnership for our customers just keeps growing and growing.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is, and we're going to have to wrap things up, but what I'm hearing is really, Cisco, obviously this week, as we always do, we're talking about data being so important and also differentiating for all of our customers, and they need control of their data, and sometimes it's us giving them the tools to see where their data is and how to interact with it, certainly to be able to move it around at the speed and with the latency that they need, and to communicate with it, but always knowing at any given moment that they're in control of it. And it feels like you guys are working tightly together to be able to do that. Thank you for taking the time. I hope the conference remains good for you.
Thank you.
Your booth has been very busy downstairs, and it's nice to meet you as well, Helen. But guys, with that, I'm going to go back to Lauren.
Hello, that was really insightful. My favorite part was really, it doesn't matter if you're self-hosted in the cloud, you have a video experience that's the same. VQ and Cisco partnering together to give us that. Now, I'm seeing in my peripheral, like Steve was saying earlier, I see my lovely friend, Michelle, over there with a special guest. Michelle, can you go ahead and introduce us to your guest there?
Lauren and everybody watching, welcome back to the show floor. I have a new friend, Arpita Shetty, who is a product lead of the Secure Unified branch, which is visually right behind us. I want to ask her a couple questions, starting out with, give us your elevator pitch.
First, I want to say thank you, Emma, for talking to me today. I'm really excited to be talking about Unified Branch. So my 60-second, 30-second elevator pitch would be Unified Branch is a platform approach to managing our 3 key networking components, which is routing, switching, and wireless, all under a single management platform, which is the Meraki dashboard. You know the cloud dashboard to be intuitive. So what we want to give to customers is streamlined operations. We want them to be focused on what value they are generating for their organizations instead of worrying about disparate tools and technologies. And that's why we are excited to be announcing Unified Branch.
I love it. I love it. That resonates, and that's a strong message. So what sets this apart from things that we have done in the past?
So I'll tell you what sets it apart, but before that, I may have to tell you a little more about Unified Branch.
Do tell.
Yeah. So Unified Branch has a few core critical components, which is first the platform that we talked about, cloud delivered, intuitive, single pane of glass, and then that connects to our core technology, which is routing, switching, and wireless. What we have added to Unified Branch is a concept of Cisco Validated Design, also known as CVD. So CVDs they're not new. They've been around in Cisco for a while. What they are Cisco's best practices. So imagine 40 years of Cisco's expertise, all documented and provided to customers to tell them what the best practices are to deploy a service. So what we are doing with CVDs is now we are delivering a CVD for the entire Unified Branch versus just for a solution. And then we're not just giving you a document. Like, customers don't just want a solution. They don't just want features. They want validation.
Right.
They want confidence. And so with our CVDs, because they're thoroughly tested, we are giving customers the peace of mind to deploy our solution. So that is something that's brand new. And then assurance is important, insights are important, because customers are moving more to cloud-delivered applications. So we are leveraging Thousand Eyes, which is a really cool technology from Cisco. So we are using Thousand Eyes to give customers a visibility into their networks. So that's a part of Unified Branch. And then the main thing is branch as code. So we've given customers a simple, intuitive dashboard, right, to manage their branches. But what if they want more automation? What if they want to leverage DevOps principles like version control, automation, testing? And for those customers, we have introduced Branch as Code. And we're just trying to make things simpler for customers to adopt all our technologies, to adopt all the cool technologies that Cisco develops. So that is Unified Branch.
That was incredible. I just learned a lot from her. Okay, one more question, I'm going to wrap it up.
Sure.
How are customers changing the way they think about branch management?
So, like I was saying, customers want validated designs. Customers want peace of mind. And today, customers are facing problems with IT shortages. There's a talent shortage, and there are disparate tools that they have to manage. So they want something that is simple and intuitive, and that's what we think is changing with customers today. They want more automation. You heard the keynote yesterday. It's all about AI. And I think that's what is changing with customers today. And we are creating technology and products that help customers move to the next digital transformation.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
I can't stop saying I learned a lot from her. Thank you so much. I'm sending it back to you, Lauren, in the studio.
Thank you, thank you. I learned a lot as well, and we have them coming. We have another interview. I'm passing it back over to Rob to hear more.
You got it. Thank you so much, Lauren. So this is fun. Craig, I met you when you were out hyping Hypershield. Hyping Hypershield. I didn't think about that. Yeah, and still worth hyping, if you will. But Secure Mesh Firewall is what I wanted to talk to you about and understand kind of, am I saying that right?
Hybrid
Mesh Firewall. It should be secure. The secure is assumed when we say firewall. But can you tell me what that means and how unique is that naming in the market? Because it was a little bit more known than I had even realized.
Yeah, so Hybrid Mesh Firewall is a term that Gartner coined to talk about the convergence of management of different types of firewalls. So we have three types of firewalls traditionally that exist in an enterprise. We have traditional box-based firewalls that run on-prem. We have cloud-native firewalls that run inside of hyperscalers. And then we have firewalls as a service that runs as part of our SSE or SASE solution.
Okay.
And so Gartner wanted to push the industry to converge on a single enforcement stack, a single management stack for those three firewalls. Now we've taken it and expanded that definition.
When you and I were talking a little bit earlier, and this is something I wish was sometimes made more clear to everyone, because it's what I struggle with, is when we change the name of things. And there's been some significant name changes in security, but there's a good reason for it. So I wanted to, can you kind of tell us what the translation is from what we used to call to what we call it now, and why?
Yeah, so what we did is we tried to rename products to make them easy to understand. So we used to have
the functional name.
a lot of bespoke names, a lot of acronyms. It was like a secret jargon to understand what all the Cisco products did.
The secret to my power, yeah.
And so, if you look at the elements of our Hybrid Mesh Firewall, two of the key elements are what we call today Secure Firewall. We used to call FTD or Firepower.
Threat defense, yeah.
But you might not know what firepower means.
No.
You might guess that it means firewall because it has fire in it.
Yeah.
Secure Firewall, it's pretty obvious what Secure Firewall is. Similarly, we had a product called Tetration. You wouldn't know what that does, and right now it's called Secure Workload. Should be very clear that at least its job is securing your workloads, right? So it's trying to give functional names that make it easy for folks to understand what we do.
Well, and as we're adding new things, it becomes a little bit challenging at first, I feel like, to differentiate between, well, what's new and what's just a name change. But there's new elements to all of these things. In fact, can you talk a little bit about, because we've got increased enforcement points as part of the umbrella technology that you're with this mesh.
Yes.
But what are the elements that are delivering that for us?
So Hybrid Mesh Firewall is a suite of enforcement points.
Okay.
So the idea is a single policy that can be pushed down to a distributed set of enforcement points. Okay. Those enforcement points can be the Secure Firewall that I just mentioned, Secure Workload that I just mentioned, Hypershield, which runs in two form factors, either on the workload with eBPF, where it's powered by our isovalent runtime security technology.
Isovalent is where we got the ePVF?
Correct.
Okay.
Or inside our smart switch, where it runs as a network enforcer. We've added two new enforcement points at this show. One is Cisco ACI, which folks know, the data center fabric that they know and love. And the other is our new secure routers actually have the ability to take security policies from Security Cloud Control using the same security stack and do enforcement right on the Cisco Secure Router.
So when I think about this distributed nature of that we're all kind of struggling with, the speed, of course, the distribution, and AI specifically, because we have AI that we're using to get more things done, but then you as a security person are constantly thinking about, well, wait, who's checked the AI?
Yeah.
But you guys are constantly thinking about both sides of that in all of this implementation, correct?
Yeah, I mean, AI brings a couple of interesting challenges. So I always say, Chuck's talked about fusing security in the fabric of the network. I like to say we need to change security from being a place in the network we send traffic to being part of the network itself. And that's really important when you think about AI, because the speed that AI is operating at, you can't have a firewall box and all my AI traffic is going to go through that firewall box, right? You've seen those stats we have where like a single AI rack has more traffic than the entire LTE network in the United States of America. Well, I'm not going to put a firewall box in there. I need to distribute security everywhere. So by having the same security distributed in all these enforcement points, not only does it allow consistency, but it allows this horizontal scale of those security services so that as I'm rolling out these new inferencing capabilities, learning capabilities, other things with AI, and now agent-to-agent communication, I'm actually embedding the security close to where those things are happening, which allows me to not only have consistency, but also scale.
Well, I think it was in the G2 keynote, he talked about kind of buying us time between, say, when a vulnerability is announced and the time in which a patch is released, because we see threats come out much faster, of course, than the patch.
Right.
But you guys the infrastructure, when deployed in this manner, has been given the ability to microsegment on the fly? Is that how it's working?
Yeah, so two things. One, I mean, for vulnerabilities in customer workloads, Hypershield is there to do autonomous segmentation on the fly, and also what we call distributed exploit protection, where we can actually use eBPF to prevent a vulnerability from being exploited. Okay. This week at the show, we announced Cisco Live Protect, where we're taking the technology that does distributed exploit protection and bringing it to Cisco devices, starting with our Nexus switches, but it's going to extend to all Cisco devices. So not only a vulnerability in the customer workload, but what if Cisco ourselves has a vulnerability? Well, we're going to allow you to, at runtime with no disruption, prevent that vulnerability from being exploited, which means you still have to patch the device, but you can do it at your next scheduled maintenance window. It's not a hair on fire emergency the way it is
life
today.
in general, it feels like. So I like that. So you're buying some time. But the first thing I thought of, too, sometimes is if you're locking that down, obviously we have to be very intelligent how we lock that down, because we're talking about production resources that are still in play.
Right.
And so it's using them securely, but in some kind of a fashion that is still safe. So I guess it's very exploit relevant.
It is. It's very targeted. So eBPF, what eBPF allows us to do is safely extend the functionality of the kernel at runtime, and do it by extending it an individual, what we call hook point. So that could be a single function call, a single system call, a single K-probe in the kernel, which is a name for a hook point in the kernel. And so we're able to write very targeted rules that are actually executing as part of the kernel. So very fast, very safe. So imagine I'm not saying block this big thing. I'm saying this one function call cannot be called by this one process if it's running in this one network namespace. I'm being very, very fine-grained.
Something really a machine can only write that kind of rule on the fly, I would imagine, at that speed.
Right.
But I love that, because that's exactly what we need to deal with today's realities. Craig Connors, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy running around this week explaining these concepts, because security is a huge focus with everything that we're dealing with. But with that, we'll go back to Lauren.
Hello, everyone. And all I heard was simplicity. I heard single pane of enforcement, single enforcement stack, actually. And it's music to my ears, because if you've been in security long enough, you know security used to be an afterthought. But at Cisco, we are bringing it front and center. We're infusing it into everything we do, in the policy engine, everywhere. I'm super excited. Oh my gosh, thank you. That just really got me really pumped up. So now, we got a lot of good content coming over to you guys. Interview, and guess what's next? Another interview with Michelle. Michelle, are you out there?
Lauren, you know I'm here, ready with another interview. Thanks for bringing it back here. We're on the show floor. I'm here with Grant Shirk, who is in product marketing. Now, why I'm excited to talk to Grant is that I'm also in product marketing, so we're about to geek out on the coolest job. What I want to talk to Grant about is security architecture. G2 brought this up earlier. What are the 3 pillars you want to highlight for people to see?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to the conversation we were having yesterday, there's really 3 primary challenges that our customers are facing that they need solutions for at the end of the day. And a lot of it is brought on by the advent of AI and agentic AI, but also there are a ton of today challenges that are already impacting networks. And our customers really need 3 things. That's what we're here to talk about. One is delivering that operational simplicity across the network that is powered by AI. as we're dealing with skills challenges and staff shortages and really just the complexity of the network overall, it is critical that we give our customers more and better tools like AI Canvas in order to collaborate, diagnose, and understand what's actually happening on their networks. The second piece, though, is we talked about the need for more powerful, more intelligent infrastructure and hardware that's built for the pending demands that AI is going to bring. Like, I still have that chart that we showed in the keynote yesterday of how traffic patterns are changing. Right? We've gone from AI driving this kind of like spiky intermittent traffic to now constant inferencing both at the data center and the edge. And that's shifting the traffic that's flowing across the network, which is the second reason why we really need that different architecture to solve for these problems. And then the last one, which is really both a today and tomorrow problem, is that need for deeper, better, and more effective security, both for the challenges of today. So it's those three things. Operational security, it is hardware and infrastructure built for the AI era so we can be ready. And then it's our ability to protect both the devices and the data that's flowing across that network.
Thank you. That was very powerful. I want to move it over to hardware for AI. Can we talk about the smart switches that were introduced, and are they part of that?
We can absolutely talk about the smart switches, and in many cases, they are the anchor in the infrastructure that's going to drive all of this. When you think about where all of that bandwidth, that connectivity, the need to scale out these tens of thousands of devices and the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of agents, you need a different kind of infrastructure in your switching layer. And so we're standing right now in the middle of the Future-Proof Workplaces Showcase. We call this mission control kind of informally because this is how we're showing that unified platform coming together. But just over here, we actually have the new Cisco C9610 series smart switches. These are powered by a new class of Silicon One chips, and they're actually pairing together both that Silicon One CPO and a second coprocessor. And their superpower is their ability to run both the networking flows and the security in parallel without impacting each other. So for any of you out there who are still running you might have a 6800 that's buried in a closet somewhere. I heard somebody talking about a Cisco 6000 chassis that had been drywalled in and there was just one Ethernet cable coming out, still running. Like, now's the time. Now is the time to think about
this is your call to action.
Future-proofing that network, but you're getting 10 slots. You could run 2 supervisors in parallel, and there's some really powerful technology on this that's going to drive that post-quantum cryptography, protecting the data, and honestly, they're just really cool.
They are.
Fully redundant with swappable fans on the backplane. Like, these things are cool. I will tell you, we're kind of off camera, I had to help carry one of these up a flight of stairs. It weighs 600 pounds fully loaded. It took 5 of us to get it up. I'm just really glad we didn't drop it.
How many flights of stairs?
Only one, but that was enough.
That's one too many. Last question. What else are you getting attendees asking about here at Mission Control?
Oh, well, I think there are probably 3 main questions. Certainly, one of the most fun things they're doing is enjoying the variety in the fixed access line of these smart switches, which is the C9350, which is just behind you. These are also Silicon One powered, and they're available in 24-port, 48-port varieties. I think there's some capabilities, though, that we gloss over if we're only talking about the security and other things. Each one of these, particularly the 48 ports, they're 90 watts of PoE in every single port. So you've got a full power budget. The power supplies, actually, if any of you have the chance, come over and play with the power supplies. They're titanium rated, they're incredibly sustainable and power efficient. And you can do some amazing things with energy management. As a matter of fact, right before we started this interview, one of the team over here in the center reminded me, every single device in this section, from the Meraki MV cameras to the Thin Labs displays and the lighting, is PoE powered, and it's all driven by the column in the center. So like this idea that energy networking is actually a real technology, like proof of that is right here in the showcase.
That is such a great thing to end on. Thank you so much, Grant, for your
Absolutely.
time. Hopefully you're not carrying anything else up the stairs today.
I will see what happens when it's time to take the place down.
That's true, no promises. Lauren, I'm sending it back to you in the studio. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. now we are preparing for our next session. I know you all are just soaking in all this information, right? I hope you are. If you're not, you better be, because we got more stuff coming. And the next thing we have is all about AI-powered assurance, from the edge all the way to the cloud. And if we think about it, more and more, we're seeing devices that are managed, not managed, owned, not owned, all in our environments. And it becomes even more difficult to really be able to pinpoint where the issue is that's occurring. So being able to find out the root cause, being able to understand what device, what team, if you will, right? What team is responsible for this issue is just getting harder. But at Cisco Splunk, we are building solutions to really help you navigate that, really be able to give you the end-to-end visibility that you need and that assurance. And what's really cool is that we're bringing it as a single platform, using things that you probably already heard of on the Cisco side, using Thousand Eyes, some of those solutions. And I'm a little biased, but Splunk to help with the IT operation. So I'm super excited to hear Sanjay and Diego really bring to life what we mean when we say AI-powered end-to-end. Come check out this session now.